Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio. I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. And when I started this show in 2008, I was on a mission to promote women-owned businesses and help women succeed by providing resources and valuable tips from other women and men, small business owners. In each interview, my guests speak openly about their triumphs, the scary times, and tough decisions they had to make along the way. Women Entrepreneurs Radio is about showing women how to harness their natural strengths to achieve success on their own terms. Hi everyone, welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio. Your host, Deborah Bailey. I'm really glad that you could join me today. And if you're listening to this show on Podomatic, you could also find it on iTunes, of course, and Spotify, iHeartRadio, there's several other platforms. If you go to womenentrepreneursecrets.com and click on podcast in the menu bar, then you can see some other platforms that the show is available on, so that you can listen on your favorite platform. And also, just ask if you could take a moment, especially if you're on your iPhone, iPad, if you're listening on iTunes, you could take a moment and just scroll down and you could leave a review for the show and also a rating. 5 stars is always nice. And I hope that you will take a little bit of time to do that. Just takes a moment. Because of course, the more reviews, the more likely this show will be found by other listeners. So I really appreciate that if you could take a moment. And also you can find out more about me, my website, dbaileycoach.com, and check out some things I'm doing there with coaching and some books that I have written. And also for my fiction, you can go to brightstreetbooks.com and find out more about me there as well. So I hope that you will do that. And as I said again, I hope that you will also check out the Women Entrepreneur Secrets blog, which also has a lot of articles and information of interest to entrepreneurs. So I'm going to start off today and introduce my guest. Shruti Joshi is the co-founder and CEO of Compell'd, a consumer business that is transforming the way people keep track of, do, and share the recommendations, experiences, and content they discover from anywhere. And as an entrepreneur and former marketing executive with a track record of driving growth across multiple B2B and B2C businesses across large startup, mid-sized firms, and turnaround brands, Shruti advises and sits on several startup and mid-sized company boards. She has successfully led go-to-market P&L businesses and new product innovation and has expert knowledge in brand building, digital marketing, marketing analytics, and growing recurring revenue businesses, including SaaS, software as a service. Shruti is passionate about experiencing all that you want in life, loves to travel, and would rather see and try something firsthand than hear about it secondhand. Fascinated by the concept of micro regrets and being more unified between a life imagined and a life lived, she developed Compell'd to help others live their lives to the fullest. So welcome to the show, Shruti. I'm really glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, you know, there's so much that you have been doing. We chatted about that a little bit before we started. And so I just was wondering what in the world, which of the so many accomplishments that we could touch on, but I'm really excited to hear so much about this company that you're working on. It sounds really interesting and fantastic. But before we dive into that, I really would love if you could share your journey that, brought you to decide that you were going to launch that business.
Yeah, so I actually think that this journey starts, from the time I was born.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the daughter of 2 entrepreneurs, and my parents really spent so much of their careers moving and taking on better positions. And with that, I had a chance to see the world. So I was born in Mumbai, India, and when I was about, 5 months old, they left and they moved to Europe. Mm-hmm. And they moved to Brussels, and then we moved over to New York City and to Philly and Switzerland and back to California. I think California and there. It was 9 different moves before I was 14. And I think it's such an essential part of my story because, one, growing up with entrepreneurs and 2 parents that have their PhDs and seeing a very strong role model in my mom, who would look for the next opportunity and just the adventure that they really brought into our lives. I think that became such a part of my DNA and who I am as a person. Mm-hmm. And so by the time I was, 14 years old and had moved around the world in different cities 9 times, I think went through a period where I just wanted to kind of stick around, and they were in Southern California at that time. But one thing that was a huge part of our lives was travel. Mm-hmm. And so I think I was just raised with these values around going out and seeing things, meeting people, connecting with people. Rather than reading a book, which was a big part of what my parents encouraged, it was seeing it firsthand. Mm-hmm. And how that type of experience of doing something would really allow you to form your own opinion, and your own stories around, what those experiences were all about for you. And I think what I also recognized as I grew up was that those personal experiences were really instrumental in driving personal growth and transformation, which was a great thing, to grow up and feel like you had more wisdom and more knowledge about the world and yourself. Mm-hmm. And so I think this has always been a huge part of me and my career. And so I remember being in college, kind of fast forwarding a bit, and there was sort of those majors. I was a business major, and there were always parts of the business school that were more attractive to certain students because they happen to have better paying jobs or they have, more prestige. And I just remember kind of digging my heels in and saying, what do I really love? Because what I love about this country in particular, after seeing a lot of other countries through my travels, is that, if you do what you love and follow your passion in this country and you do it well, you really can make a living off of it. You can really find a way to be gainfully employed and enjoy what you do. And so I ended up following my heart, which was marketing at the time. And I really loved marketing because it gave me a little bit of both creativity and analytics and math, and it was very right and left brain. I thought that was definitely something that made me excited. So I pursued that and ended up graduating and moving into a job that promised travel and management experience right out of school. So I joined actually Verizon's Marketing Management Development Program, and they moved me out to Dallas, Texas from Southern Cal. And I had a chance to work in different parts of the organization. And then the second year I was in Huntington Beach, California, overseeing a sales team. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, this type of a job offered so many adventures within it and so many great experiences. And since that was such a part of who I was, it really delivered on what I was looking for. And after that program ended, they helped me find a permanent position in New York City. And at that time, it started to sneak in that I really wanted to learn all of the 4 Ps, classical marketing, so I could maybe one day find myself in a CMO-like situation or position. And so I ended up moving into the advertising team. I had worked in sales support. I had worked with large business, small business, consumers. And advertising was a great place to be as well, to see how consumers responded to, what ends up being the last thing that goes out. But the sales experience was incredible as well because we really see the customer. And that's a huge part of understanding how to build successful marketing programs. So I really started to connect the dots pretty early from that experience around what skills I would need to be a great marketer, and, how things worked and how to actually maneuver in a large corporation and make change happen. And so that was invaluable. I ended up spending, a couple more years at Verizon, and then that entrepreneurial bug came back. And I really wanted to, get to a smaller environment where I could really push change. I think things in large companies, you learn so much, you have so many resources and scale, but you don't necessarily get to move as fast as some of the smaller, leaner organizations. Mm-hmm. And so there was a company called 180 Design that was looking for, they were actually absorbed by a company called Laga, but at the time they were looking for somebody to really grow their business and bring in new clients and create a marketing strategy and run a lot of ethnographic research. And so I ended up leaving actually to take that after 4.5, 5 years of being at Verizon. And it was a huge risk and everybody thought I was crazy, but I wanted to learn product innovation, and that's what this company did. They helped big consumer companies build new products and package innovation. And I just found that fascinating, again, tapping into consumer psychology. And so after those couple of years, I was called by Verizon because Verizon was investing in a fiber initiative, a $17, $18 billion initiative to roll fiber to the home and offer a whole new suite of services, including television service. And I ended up coming back, and they offered to actually help compensate a business school program at Columbia, which was great. So they convinced me to come back in a very different, part of the company's journey. And I just had a tremendous 4 to 5 years. I finished up my MBA, but at the same time ended up, being responsible for customer acquisition for the FiOS program and the rest of the national program. So that was an amazing dream job. It was a huge budget, a large organization, and I really just learned so much and really had to push myself in ways that I never thought I would. So when I was in that role at Verizon, that entrepreneurial bug came back, and I thought to myself, I've really learned a lot. I love being here, but I just keep feeling like there's got to be something more, and I wanted faster, more challenge. And so I started to investigate other opportunities. And in the role I was responsible for a very large budget, and I thought, really with the new analytics that are available, we should be making decisions in a different way. And so I had worked with a group of really smart people at a company called Altman Vilandrie and Company, really bright folks. And I had worked with them on a project where they used a new algorithm to help me answer questions around where to invest the next dollar in my marketing plan to get the best ROI. And it was a newer technique, and they didn't know a ton about media. And so it was really kind of working together to apply this new algorithm to this particular set of problems that I had. And it ended up being magic and, really gave me a double-digit lift in sales with the budget reduction. And I thought, this should be a product. This should be software. This should be something that every marketer has access to, especially because it's objective. We're not buying media or any marketing. There's nothing in it. They were just trying to help me make the best decisions. So I ended up leaving and joining them as a partner and building a practice area around marketing ROI, which they hadn't done before, a functional area that was really focused on one specific set of topics. And we ended up building a couple of software products, bringing on a lot of really incredible large Fortune 500 clients, and making a lot of impact in their business using these, best-in-class analytics approaches and objectivity. And that was a lot of fun. And it was entrepreneurial, extremely entrepreneurial. As a partner, you really do run your own business, but there was some infrastructure and in place, right? It was an existing company. And so it wasn't completely, starting from scratch. But that was an amazing run. And after being there for 7 years, I started to have this kind of new chapter in my personal career journey, which was I started to think, I've really amassed an incredible amount of knowledge, but am I applying it to things that I'm really passionate about? And I spent a career helping companies grow and, reach objectives and build brands. And I just felt like, what if I applied all of this to an area that I felt really passionate about? And that is really where the Compell'd journey starts. But I ended up leaving and selling my equity at AVCo and taking a little bit of time, actually, for the first time after, 80-hour weeks to just sit and think. And that is, that's kind of where Compell'd started.
Wow, that's an incredible journey.
Sorry, that was more detail than you wanted.
No, I think that was really excellent because there's so much that you have done and the traveling that you talked about and how one thing kind of led to the next thing and your willingness to take risks and take a chance. I think that is so important because a lot of times people get to a point where they may have that yearning to do something else, but they may feel like, well, I can't do that now because, well, I have this position or this place and I shouldn't, risk that. So it takes a certain kind of way of looking at the world to feel comfortable enough to say, yeah, I think I'm going to follow this. And it sounds like it ties back to, like you were saying, when you were traveling, when you were younger and with your family, and that seems like that all ties together.
Yeah, definitely. I do think that those, early experiences of, being put in positions where you didn't know a lot and you didn't know a lot of people and you had to kind of figure it out. I think when you're comfortable dealing with ambiguity in that manner, I think it's much easier to put yourself back into those positions. If anything, I think that's my familiar. Mm-hmm. So, whenever I get too comfortable, I'm like, okay, we got to change something up because, it's time to learn something new or feel uncomfortable again. I can, learn a new skill or, figure something new out about myself. So, definitely.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely going to, help you to move along. And also you were mentioning FiOS, which is what I have right now. So.
Yes. I'm still a very proud FiOS customer.
That's what I have right now. And back in the day, I actually used to work for AT&T as a programmer. So.
I didn't actually know that. I mean, it's funny, after leaving Verizon and then consulting, I had a chance to work with a much broader part of the tech, media, and telecom landscape. And so I feel like all of these companies are now near and dear to my heart, and still have friends at many of them.
Yeah, they're all related. So I think there's a lot of people who've had experiences in a few of them. Because there's so many of the same people who have kind of moved into all these different areas, and at some point they've had experience in one of these big companies. Because I was also at Lucent for a while as well, so it's
a lot of the same people. It's a really small world out here.
Yeah, definitely. So it's kind of interesting when I talk to people who have been in that telecom world there. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about Compell'd?
Yeah, so, the Compell'd story, as I mentioned, what was really important to me in this next chapter of my career was to be able to work on something that I felt very connected to and passionate about. Mm-hmm. And I observed a problem, and it was actually my husband and I, we observed an issue that we were having. And it was that we were just feeling bombarded with content. And we were definitely, we're all part of the experience economy, which is, now moved on, I think, to the passion economy. There's so many ways that we talk about it these days. But it was this idea of, having experiences are more valuable than buying things. And as part of that, with the technology shifts and, digital media and social media, it was just, we felt overwhelmed, right? But we wanted at the same time to have the best experiences and to maximize, if we were going on a date night or a dinner out, that it was the best sushi place. Or if we're traveling, to London, that we made sure that we had the best recommendations for where to go. And so we would, like most people, we would see these recommendations, products to buy, restaurants to eat at all the time, right? 24/7. Mm-hmm. And what we noticed was that whenever the moment came to go to dinner, or to, take the trip to London, we could never find the things that we had seen. And we were saving those things in many different places, it turned out. And since then, we've done a tremendous amount of research, both qualitative and quantitative, at Compell'd. And we have found that everyone's really doing this. And what people are doing is they're personally curating, out of all this content they're seeing, things that interest them. Things or experiences that they want to have at some point in the future, when the moment is right. Mm-hmm. And the places that people are saving these things are, number one, their screenshots. They're taking screenshots and photos, and it's all saving in the photo gallery. Browser tabs, people leave tons of browser tabs open, and then they freak out if, their computer has to shut down. I don't know if you've ever done that. the notes apps that they use, they make lists of things. So if you're at a brunch and someone says, oh, you got to read, Deb's book, they write a note of a book or a movie list or restaurants they have to try. And these notes kind of die, and they're hard to find, whatever that thing is. So it turns out people have created all these coping strategies. And there are over 15 places that people save this content to. And the problem really is that over two-thirds forget that information. They never go back. It's actually higher than that. It's most people don't go back and ever find that information, most importantly when they want it. And as we say around the office at Compell'd, the only thing worse than having than having a date night ready is like not knowing where that recommendation went, right? When you have sort of a plan to go out and do something, you had it, but you just don't know where it is. And that's really frustrating. So what we found was that there was actually a lot of stress associated with this. And people spend a lot of time looking back through those things to find that experience they wanted to have, or that restaurant or that book, or they end up re-looking for it and then they end up settling. And I think this was an area that I felt really passionate about for reasons that I was just sharing with you, is that, I do believe, and even before the experience economy, that having experiences and doing the things you want to do in this extraordinarily short life we all have is the most important thing. Doing what we're compelled to do, and that's really where the name Compell'd came from, is kind of everything. It's like, that's what we're here for. And so to have this new problem that's emerged from technology, which has been so helpful in so many ways, but it has created this issue, and it's really a silent burden that everybody's facing, and there's a mental load and a stress associated with it. And so we really wanted to tackle that problem, and we wanted to be the advocate for experiences and to leave all of the anticipatory and exciting parts of planning experiences, but we wanted to remove the work. And we wanted to make it easier for people to get to the things that they wanted to do and share those experiences with other people. So, when you kind of look around, there isn't really a platform that allows you to save, content from anywhere. And then once that content is in the application, whether it's a screenshot or a place that you want to try, or an article you want to read, or a book title or movie, whatever it is, right? You can save it in Compell'd. And what we do is once it's in the app, we want to help you make it happen. So whether it's reminding you at a certain place, or allowing you to set a reminder at a place, or resurfacing that content to you. So if you create a list in Compell'd of weeknight recipes that you've been saving over time, on, a Wednesday night, we want to remind you that you have this list. When you land in Chicago, we want to tell you that you have these places in Chicago, and we want to take it one step further. We want to show you, for the people you trust, because we all go to people we trust for recommendations, what they might recommend in the Chicago area. And so, big part of Compell'd is marrying this background that I've had in technology and, really building brands together with solving this consumer problem, which is really focused on helping people experience more of the things that they want. And then share those experiences and, connect with others over those experiences, because that's what we're doing. I mean, I remember in the research phase, I would sit at brunches and lunches, and I'd kind of naturally overhear conversations, and everybody in groups of friends, they're just sharing with each other, hey, there's this great book I read, you got to read it, or we ate dinner at this restaurant, it was amazing, we watched this TV show, are you watching this TV show? That's how we all connect as a society. And so this platform is really about making those connections much easier.
As you were talking, I was just thinking about all the things that I have put aside, like putting notes on my phone. And last time I looked at the notes, I was like, well, I didn't even remember I had so many of them, because what is this? And when did I do this? And what was I going to follow up with this? Because if I don't think about it, then I had forgotten I'd put them there. Or I was thinking about a recipe that I was having some friends over for the weekend, and I'm like, well, I know I've got probably a chicken recipe somewhere, but now I have to go and try and find it. I'm looking through papers. I'm looking on my computer, and I'm like, Well, where is it? When you see it, you're like, oh, I love to make this, and then you don't know where you put it. So
exactly. That's the worst feeling. No, like I've done all of these things. And you know what's really funny is when we started this research, I remember looking with our team at my screenshot count, and I'm a big screenshotter.
Mm-hmm.
I had 2,500 screenshots.
Wow.
How do you find anything? And I'm not alone in this. Like now I talk to so many people, and how do you find anything you want to do in 2,500 screenshots? You're like, we should be better than that. So we all deserve better than that. So that's basically what we really want to make it easy for people to experience all of these magical things they're discovering from everywhere. And so much of that, by the way, are from people that they trust, a friend, or maybe it's an influencer that they follow, those the Instagram screenshots of the stories. Those are lots of screenshots that people take. So yeah.
Well, it's true though, because you can save things and you see in that moment and you're like, oh, that looks great or whatever. And then trying to find it when you want it. Or as you said, someone recommends something, you try to remember it, or you write it somewhere, and then where did I write it? Where is it at? I don't know. And then it just gets lost, even though in that moment you're like so excited about it, and now it's gone.
Yeah, exactly. And then you end up settling sometimes, and you end up spending, 25 minutes trying to find it. And that time is so valuable. Like, wouldn't you rather be actually experiencing that thing rather than trying to figure out, where you put it? And I think that's all of these things really add up. And sometimes I refer to them as micro regrets. Like they're all these little things, that are day-to-day things. But in aggregate, I think they're really meaningful, and they allow us to, if we can do more of those things that we want to do, whatever it is, making a cup of tea of a certain brand you wanted to try, or reading an article that you wanted to read, or stopping at a new coffee shop near your office. I think all these things add up, and they really help drive, the quality of our lives.
So your platform, if that's the right way to refer to it, this will be something that you can share just about anything that you come across that you feel that, wow, this is really great, like other people know about this, or I like to put this aside until I can do this thing. Is that how it's going to be set up?
Yeah, the way it's set up is effectively each user in Compell'd has the ability to save various types of media or content into lists. Right? So lists are really, and we refer to our list as smart. Like a list in Compell'd isn't just like a list, right? It's a smart list. It's something that has a lot of features built in to help you to actually do those things. So, you can save links, for example. So even if you're on a website, you can hit, the little share, they call it the share extension, but it's the little box with the arrow up. You can hit that and you can actually send something into the app, into one of your lists. You can also search for places within Compell'd, and you could also add a screenshot or a photo from your photo gallery into Compell'd using the same share extension, or you can, open it up in the app and it'll pull up your photo library, and you can add pictures and media. So you can also just take notes. And so, what we're doing is we're allowing people to create these lists. And in these lists, you can set reminders, you can write notes for yourself. They're very easy to search through, to access. It's a very visual experience. We've really worked hard to make the UI as beautiful and as simple to interact with as possible. And, the things, if you think about, I think that's sort of the personal aspect of it, right? You can build these lists of things that you want to do or you want to try. As people try these things, what naturally happens is that some of these lists become things I love, or things I recommend, or, a London city guide if you've spent a lot of time in London or in your city. And naturally people start sharing their lists. So it's very common where I'll be asked as somebody that has traveled to certain cities very often, hey, you've been to Paris, do you have a list of recommendations for Paris? Well, with Compell'd, it's way better than an email. It's way better than sending, a shared document where it becomes a lot of work for the other person, or I have to keep recreating it. You just create it once in a few minutes in Compell'd, because we've integrated with Google Places. You can type in different places. You can add your notes. And when you send a Compell'd list, right? The person doesn't have to have the application. They can view a beautiful list on their web. And there's a lot of integrated features like directions, the ability to book ride service, and the ability to set reminders, the ability to share that entry with other people, to add your own notes. And the older I get, I don't remember when I visit a place, what the name of that restaurant was. So I love it because it's also a record of the things I'm doing and things I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And, even if it's a list of weeknight recipes, you can even have a list that's a combination of different things, like a list for New York that has a book on New York and, a recipe about New York and places related to New York. So it's very flexible. And I think it has to be because everybody's interests are different.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to spend their time differently. So, really allowing people the creative freedom to structure it in a way that works for them, but at the same time, putting some guardrails around it so that it stays organized and it works for them is really the balance that we've worked very hard to achieve. But more than anything, I think it's just a huge step up from the things that we're doing today. All of these coping strategies I talked about, or even if you're sharing lists with people, just, sharing them where they disappear on a story, or they're, in an email that you have to dig up and find. Compell'd list is alive. There's a lot of map features if it is a place that you're talking about, and you click one button to navigate and one button to, call, one button to order. So it takes all those steps and that work out of the equation. It's something that you really do have to experience. We've had people that have been on an alpha product, and many of them have said, it's just one of those things where once you start working with it, you build a habit. It really improves the way it will happen.
Well, I like the idea of being able to tie all of those things together. For instance, you're talking about maps and then associating all these things because, I went through something similar where a friend of mine was in town and a few of us were wanting to look at restaurants meet. And then, of course, we were trying to do it on the phone and texting, and then they need directions, and now you got to go through something else. And all of that. Yeah. And you realize, wow, if only there was a simpler way to do this, because that then takes so much time away from whatever it is you're trying to do with something that could just be right there, that you could just have it at your fingertips.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, we really do want to free up people's time to just enjoy those moments doing the thing rather than, the logistics to kind of get to the thing, whatever that is. And, it's interesting because I talked about how so much of this, came from even observing people, and observing people connect over these shared experiences. Like you're talking about trying to get a group of friends together for a restaurant, to meet somewhere or pick a place. And that's such a huge part of this. I think that there's a huge aspect of Compell'd, which is about helping the individual do the things that they want to do, right? Having a way to keep track of it all, having help and, assistance in us resurfacing that content to you or making it easy to find it again at the right moment, the right time or place. And I also think the secondary piece of it is over time, how we connect with each other and how we share recommendations and experiences. And, there's nothing better than if a friend tells you, hey, you got to go do this, and then you actually go and try whatever it is they suggested, that moment of like, thank you for sharing this. Had a great experience. You really connect over sharing those recommendations with each other. And I think that's another aspect of Compell'd that we really want to tap into. But we really first need to get people saving their things here and getting it out of the 3,000 screenshots and, notes that are going to never be seen again and forwarded emails and all those crazy things we're doing. So
that's so true. And I think that maybe that was an aspect of technology that people didn't consider, that you would have so much information that it would almost be too much. Yeah, you can access just about anything, but that there's good in that and there's not so good in that.
Absolutely. And you do see this just whole emergence of personal curation, this I'm choosing the things that I'm interested in doing, and there really just isn't there isn't really a destination for all of those things. And so I think now there is in just a few weeks.
So when is this all going to launch?
Yeah, so we have plans to launch in the middle of December, and we'll be in a beta period at that point, but our product will be available on the App Store, most likely by December 16th, 17th, and then we'll really, start to spread the word early next year. And we've been talking to some fascinating, interesting people that are, food connoisseurs, and we call them urban explorers. These really fascinating folks that have amazing recommendations and stories, and we'll be featuring them on our website, Compell'd.com. We have a Finders Keepers section, and a lot of their stories and their lists will be linked off of that. So I think that'll be an interesting way to just showcase, what the product can do, and also allow people to learn about some new things that maybe they didn't know about.
So, and you just mentioned the website. Is there any other places that you'd like to share where people can find out more about you and about Compell'd?
Yeah, so our website will be going live with the product. So it's right now, it's Compell'd.com is certainly a place. We have an About Us section, and, we'd love to hear from anybody with feedback or thoughts. So people can access me there, or can find my information and send, word to us via our website. And then in addition to that, LinkedIn is a great place to reach out to me, and just Shruti Joshi, and I'm available there as well, and do my best to stay on top of messages and things like that.
So now how does it feel when you're ready, you're at this point of the beta and it's coming up? How does all that feel when you see what's ahead and the excitement as well? But how are you feeling right now?
I feel like we're just about to get started. I feel like we just spent, so much time researching and talking to users and running an alpha program to, get firsthand feedback so that we could build a product that people really loved using, not just wanted to use. And I think that when it comes to consumer technology, it's so hard to predict, what people are going to find easy to use, difficult to use, which features they're really going to fall in love with and use heavily versus ignore. And I think there's nothing better than putting a product in the hands of users that, share the problem that we're trying to solve, and then really see kind of where to go from there. And so as much as we've put so much effort into thinking through how to give people the best user experience possible, we're really just at the beginning. And when we look at our product roadmap, we have so many incredible features that are coming, and, this is just the start. And so there's this feeling of like, let's get it out and get more feedback so we can continue to improve this. But it feels like we've run a marathon and, we've got to run another one. So it's exciting. It's also really exciting, at right. Point.
That's the thing, the anticipation and really being ready to dive in. And I think it's also a good point that what you're doing has taken certain steps for you to get to where you need to go, and you understand that and you're planning that and you've got the whole roadmap. Because I think at times, entrepreneurs, maybe newer ones, may think that, everything has to happen right away and overnight, and they just have to dive right in and not go through this whole process that you were describing.
Oh my gosh, it's so much slower. I mean, that's probably like the biggest lesson I've learned through this experience is just everything takes twice as long and arguably twice as much money. And, to really get it right and to feel like you end up being so close to it and so connected to it that sometimes it's hard to see it straight. And so you have to kind of take a step away and kind of come back. And so I think that it's so much harder than I thought it would be in so many ways. And as an impatient person and somebody that drives and pushes hard, I think one of the biggest things has just been being patient and let the process kind of happen.
Right. That can be very hard because I know I certainly have very little patience myself. So I can understand that. But, I think it's really important for people to get that because there's a lot of information out there that may make some people feel like if they are just not right out of the gate with whatever it is they are trying to do, that somehow that's a bad thing or that they're failing or whatever, and they may not see that it does take time. It may take a lot more time than they thought, but it's worthwhile if they're going through the steps.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's so true.
So Shruti, this has really been exciting to hear about everything you're doing and to hear about this platform, which sounds like it's perfect for me.
Well, we will make sure to personally the product.
That's perfect, because I'm definitely one of those people who likes to bookmark and save and all this, and then I'm the one trying to find everything later. So anything like this would I think be really fantastic and really exciting as well. So do you have any final thoughts or anything else that you'd like to share?
I obviously hope that anybody listening will try the product, and we're in that beta phase, so we'd love any and all feedback. And I think just on the entrepreneurial path, I think it's just, I feel like you just, I don't think I could do anything else right now. So as hard as it is sometimes, I feel like this is how it has to be. So I'm excited to be on this path, and fingers crossed for what's coming in this chapter.
And so I want to thank you again for sharing this and being on the show, and all these links and everything will be in the show notes. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today, Shruti.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful to be here, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Compell'd.
Yes. Well, let me start to do if I can delete some of my bookmarks.
I will personally do it for you.
I have so many, it's terrible. I couldn't even find them all. It was like, oh no, how they do this. So yeah.
Well, my co-workers will be very happy. The team will be happy to hear. But this conversation resulted in one more user.
Well, definitely, hopefully the listeners are nodding their heads to this, and they can also take part, because I think we need to kind of make sense out of all the stuff that we have gathered, so we can really start to experience these things instead of looking for them. I love it.
Totally.
So,
all right, well, thank you so much, Deb. I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Take care.
So everyone, I know you enjoyed it. Please make sure you share it on social media, share it with your friends, check out the website, and get ready to get your stuff organized, okay? So once again, some Women Entrepreneurs Radio. Secrets is the blog. See, I think I need this platform really fast. I've got too much information. With your host, Deborah Bailey. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye now. Thanks for joining us. You can also join in the conversation on Facebook.com/Women Entrepreneurs and on the website, WomenEntrepreneurSecrets.com. And don't forget to listen in on dvcoach.podomatic.com and on iTunes.